Not sure if I need a mic given the size of the audience, but I'll keep it going. Quick housekeeping, there is a polling question 5 times during the course of the session. You may need the app to take the poll. I was in 2 minds, do we need a poll when you have 10, 12 people? But we'll just go with it and see how the polls, maybe more people join, and we'll still stick to the execution, okay? Thank you everyone, thanks for joining. Just a little bit about me. My name is Manish Prabhu, career consultant. I've been a consultant for about 18 years now, focused on sales, marketing, IT, pricing as functions. In terms of experience, I focus within Deloitte in an area that we call commercial excellence. Commercial excellence starts from effective CRM, efficient pricing, the whole deal sales cycle and so on, and making it better for our organizations. On the personal front, married for about 18 years, sorry. Still married, most likely because of my wife's patience and tolerance. I have 2 daughters, aged 10 and 7. I also have 2 colleagues from Deloitte who are at the back here. As part of the session, we'll have them come over and talk in specific sections of the presentation so they can share their experiences. It becomes a little more collaborative in that process. The other thing was the picture that you see here at the back, that's me playing cricket. So like many people who grew up in the Commonwealth of the British Empire, played cricket as a kid. I had the luxury of reviving that as I grew up. So this is a league close to where I live, playing cricket for the past 2-3 years now. And the stroke that you see is called a classic cover drive. Anyone know cricket? Interested in cricket? Okay. That's a little bit about me. Let's talk about what we want to cover today. You need the app to take the poll. This is the first polling question. The intent was to understand who is in the room, what function do you currently work in. It could be either pricing or analytics, finance, sales operations, marketing, anything about marketing, corporate product marketing would be in section 3. And then if you are an IT person, that would be section 4. So if you have the app at this point, would be helpful if you take this polling question. It's on, so you can go to the app and actually choose your response. Okay. As expected, pricing is a bigger chunk of the population here. Sales ops marketing, see a few people from IT as well. There's 1 vote from finance, so I need to ask, who is the finance person in the room? We do have some sections. Business case usually is a strong finance conversation, so I'm sure the finance person will find it valuable. Let's talk about the plan for today. We have about 25 minutes odd for the conversation. I would like to leave about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. If you have questions in between, by all means, ask questions as we go. Plan to finish 10 minutes before, so it's about 3:20 is when we'll plan to finish, and 3:30 is the official end of the session, so you have some time between 3:30 and the next session that you want to go into. What we want to cover today is, let's get a mutual understanding of what is actually modern about modern commerce. You have heard that term so many times, even this morning. What is really modern about modern commerce? And then we'll talk about where do financial benefits come from in the areas of modern commerce. What are some learnings and how could you get started on that journey for modern commerce? Okay. A quick disclaimer, we belong to a professional services firm. What we talk and what we discuss here is meant for discussion purposes only. It's not professional opinion. It is not something that you can take and quote Deloitte for in your respective areas of work. It's meant for discussion. If you want any more information, we are open to share and talk about it brightly, but this presentation is not a professional opinion. Same stock advice? Yes, forward-looking, no guarantees, just like stock performance. So before we get engaged, We have about 25 minutes. This is the second of the 5 polls. This question was meant for me to understand which areas should we focus more in the 30 minutes that we have with you. The 4 areas that you could choose from are the business case. So where will financial benefits come from if you're doing a modern commerce transformation? What is the role of pricing in that transformation, both from a financial point of view, as well as what expectations does pricing have to serve? What are some of the pitfalls, learnings that could come out of this exercise? And finally, how does one get started? Modern commerce by name feels overwhelming to many. What are the starting points? How can you actually get started on the journey? All of the above. Okay. Learnings, pitfalls. We have good material that we'll talk about that. Role of pricing, we have that covered as well. Looks like areas of financial benefits not getting as many votes. But since the session is called business case, you'll see some material where we'll talk about the areas of financial benefits. It's not a classic business case, but it helps you think about where will money come from and how do you fund a modern transformation or a modern commerce transformation. Okay, so before we jump into details, modern commerce, it is a widely used word. I was asking myself, what is modern about modern commerce? At least let's get some common understanding of modernity, right? So these are 3 of the 6 areas where we think modern commerce needs some attention. Let's talk about the first one. Blurring sales channels. So if you think of the traditional value chain, there was a 4-step value chain. There was a supplier, a manufacturer, a retailer, a dealer, or a distributor, and then finally the consumer. That 4th-step value chain consisted and was traditionally going on for a long, long time. Over the past 8 to 10 years, you will see that the 4-step value chain now has crisscrosses all over. The flow of data, flow of dollars, flow of goods, flow of insights, flow of information, even the flow of people is going both ways and is skipping a few steps in that 4-step journey. What does that mean from a modern commerce point of view? What that means is, if you are selling some product, for example, this is a Kensington clicker. If you look at the company that makes this, they have to sell this through Amazon, Amazon sellers, as well as accounts like CDW, Home Depot, and so on. How do I, as a manufacturer, create a pricing strategy that is consistent and is protected across each line of my value chain? And more recently, my clients are asking about MAP. So a quick question there. Have people come across what is called as MAP, minimum advertised price, in their respective businesses? So recent topic of interest, I see a hand there. As a manufacturer, I sell a product. I have relationship and contracts with my resellers, but I don't influence the minimum price that they can sell something at. And if I don't do that, I start a race to the bottom. Big distributors buy in bulk from me, and because they buy in bulk from me, get the best prices, they go to the lowest price to ship more and more, and then that starts a race of price degradation, price discounting. We did some analysis for a client of ours. There were 10 sample cases where we saw the race to the bottom, and what we realized was 4 of the 10 were distress situations. The supplier was going bankrupt, the distributor was going bankrupt, they had to sell something off, one-off things. The 6 were systemic in nature. By systemic, I mean the manufacturer had created arbitrage opportunities for the distributor to buy in bulk and create gaps in the footprint to sell and actually exploit the pricing leakage in that process. That's huge from a sales channel point of view. Flexible consumption models. So if you think of the unit of measure, traditionally manufacturers made something, they sold it, the unit of measure was the units you sold, and then there was the occasional volume discounting that happened. But with Netflix, with Intuit, with subscription type of players in the marketplace, even B2B buyers are now used to what we call as flexible consumption model. They want to buy as they go. They also want to buy free with the option to upgrade. They would like a subscription option if that is possible. And then at the end, they want a hybrid of all of that because they want to complicate the buying process, right? If you think of it, what does that mean to us as pricers in that marketplace? What that means is that your revenue engine needs to accommodate every possible revenue management approach, right? Third one is about dynamic pricing. Very quick show of hands, does your business today have a published price? I see no, good. Okay. So 3 years back, most businesses had a published price because that was the way to go. You had to have a published price, back pocket price for the salesperson, starting price, and so on. Today, many B2B manufacturers are moving away from the notion of a published price. A very recent example is General Motors. I'm not sure if you heard about that. General Motors in the aftermarket business has bumpers and hoods and brake pads and the parts that they sell to dealers and distributors. They realized that publishing a list price was giving their competition a price to discount from. So any deal they come to the table, the competitors would discount 20% to their starting price, and General Motors would lose every deal. So a year and a half ago, General Motors moved away from this whole notion of published price. 75,000 SKUs in their catalog have no published price whatsoever. The idea is that anytime there is a transaction, they provide a dynamic price at the point of the transaction. They take into account the insurance company, the car, the geography, the type of the product. All of that goes into the dynamic pricing engine, and that has become mainstream for them. That's one example of dynamic pricing. The second list of, again, what is modern about modern commerce? Has anyone seen the video from the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, about the new Google Assistant? You did. So it's a 2-minute video. It talks about how Google Assistant has all the AI and the cognitive background now that they can call a hair salon for you and they can make an appointment on your behalf. So imagine the narrative and the dialogue that happens, right? You're calling a salon. All the possibilities, things could go wrong. But in that video, Google Assistant is able to react to that person as a person, including messaging nuances, choice of days, type of haircut, long wait, short wait, locations, and come up with an appointment successfully. That is the power of AI. That is the power of robotics and cognitive. 2 years back, some of my pricing colleagues would say, pricing doesn't feel like there yet. Pricing is more touch and feel. Pricing is more relationship-based. Pricing is more context-driven. But if you look at what many of the software companies in the market are pushing towards now, there is more AI, more cognitive, and more machine learning in the back end than ever before. In fact, if you look at statistics, there is a claim by one of the consulting firms that there is a 40% reduction in labor need for commercial processes because of the use of AI in the near future. What does that mean for pricing people? A very common and established impact of AI is the use of what we call bots. All the tasks of collecting data, compiling data, analyzing it, making it ready for a presentation has been automated using bots from many manufacturing software companies. If you look at the time that pricing folks will spend in the near future, my belief is that more time will be spent in curating the model, supervising the model, but the actual process of insight generation is going to be automated completely. That is the impact of AI going forward. Salesforce of the future. I heard that 65% of the times, a B2B buyer is more likely to go with the company that provided the first response to the price for the quote. 65%. What that means is, in the future, you need to be at that point where you can provide the best quote and also be the first person who gets that quote to the buyer, right? The salesperson of the future needs that kind of capability. How do you do that in the modern commerce world? You do that by integrating your CRM, CPQ, CLM, billing applications seamlessly. You do that by giving the salesperson access to a device of his or her choice. It could be a laptop, it could be a tablet, it could be a phone, any device, any screen size. Having seamless interaction across the sales funnel is what I mean by the Salesforce of the future. And finally, pricing in the cloud. We have been doing these conferences for the past many, many years. 5, 6 years back, there would always be the occasional CIO or the occasional VP of pricing who wants to do a custom pricing software. They used to believe that pricing is unique, pricing is a core competency. I would like to do that in-house. 2 years back, there was a big shift. Everyone wanted to do package, no more custom software. And then there was a shift to SaaS. 6 months back, almost every client that we talk to wants to go to a cloud-based offering. That's the only option from a pricing, billing, CPQ, CLM solution that they're willing to consider. So what does that mean? As a customer, the choice of the cloud is intuitive. The ramp up is faster. You don't have to have IT people in-house to manage that software. And then it's easier because it's cheaper. It's a runtime cost versus a capital cost. So you can spread the money. As a software company, cloud makes sense as well. It is easier for you to deploy your releases. You don't have to shut down your customers' servers. It's easier to cross-sell and upsell. These are intuitive. But the biggest reason that cloud is actually penetrating the workforce today is it is democratizing the entire pricing process. There are software companies that are willing to do pricing software on the cloud at $50,000 a year because of the economics of doing it on the cloud. The quality might be suspect. The quality may need more conversation. But imagine what used to take $500,000 as a starting point now has a $50K starting point because of the cloud and the economics that happen, right? So because of these things, I think we have a polling question again. These modern commerce, right? We shared about 6 of those. I would like to hear from you. Which ones do you think are relevant for your business of the 4 that you see here? Which of these disruptions do you feel is the biggest opportunity for your business? Is it the flexible consumption model because of subscription-based models? Is it the ability to do dynamic pricing? Blurring sales channels? Or is it the AI, cognitive, machine-based learning aspects of pricing? Okay. Dynamic pricing it is. So, Jeet, this was the time when I wanted you to introduce yourself. I'm not sure if people in the room know Jeet. His name tag says Pricing Guru. He is the...
I have a traditionally loud voice, so. I told Manish I'd help him with the polling question. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. I think something that Manish is describing about transformation from where we were some years ago to now is very relevant. If you saw Mike McCree present earlier at Land Lake story, I was one who worked with Mike on that, so I've been kind of doing this digging the media space for quite a while. So I would have thought when we kind of went through here that there'd be some interest on subscription-based models. It's kind of this idea of, how do I think of pricing in a different model? I think a lot of people ask now when they come to us as pricing and e-commerce strategies, say, how are we being disrupted? And that's one area where I think a lot of disruption happens, right? You think about the get out the kind of transactional activities with pricing is becoming much more interesting. And maybe some of that's captured in dynamic pricing. Right, guys? I don't even, people know that in Amazon right now, they are actively changing prices throughout the period of the day, just to see how we act and react. Right? So if you're a day shopper for a washing machine, the price will be different than if you're a night shopper for a washing machine. And they're just price testing. They're alpha and beta price testing to see what kind of activities you can do. If you buy an airplane ticket, we're used to that. But fast food restaurants, stores, they're all trying to toy this idea of should prices be charged more at different times of day. So I think that's the thing there. I think I thought Bruno had a very good idea when he talked about how B2B consumers are now kind of switching. I think it's because we all spend our time being consumers on the internet, right? We spend time on Amazon, we buy things. I mean, my job at home is to take the brown boxes from that front of the house and take them out to recycling out back, right? We have a constant arrival of stuff from Amazon Prime. Someone that told me a phrase called primenesia, which basically means you see a brown box in your front door, you're very excited, but you forget what you ordered. Until you open it up. So does that happen to anybody else? Yeah. So I think that idea that we live that way as consumers, and then all of a sudden, do you want to go back and send a fax in to do a B2B order now in your world? No, right? We're used to this idea that, hey, that's how I buy now. I want to start thinking that way. So I think this was driving, and when we sat down with folks like Mike and Peter Mann and Lake, we said, listen, this is how your consumers are consuming today. You better think of a way to get in front of them and be more dynamic with those activities. I think that goes right in line with sales channel. Cognitive, I think, who voted for cognitive? What do you, where are you seeing that being a?
So I'm in the packaging industry, so for us.
You must be having a great time with
Well, not usually. Not necessarily corrugate. I'm not helping you out. No, we do a lot of flexible commodity packaging. So we do tertiary, secondary, in some cases primary packaging. So for us, we have an in-house pricing team.
Mm-hmm.
Works on Excel files all the time, and I'm pulling my hair out and trying to figure out how do we make them more efficient and more value added, frankly. And a tool like Pros, which is what we're investigating, is a great start for it. But we're also going through a sale, or we just recently been bought. We've got all sorts of wonderful transformation things going on. I might talk to you later.
Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of the same boat there. I'm work for Siemens, and Siemens is multiple companies within the company, and some parts of our business have taken these steps, but our division specifically haven't. And we kind of do the same thing. We've got people using spreadsheets and calculating prices on the whim, and we really think that there's an opportunity to optimize pricing based on data. Order history, what products may go with other products as a recommendation. That's the area that helps us.
I think it's a rules-based understanding. Two things. One is, you need to get a company around the idea that when you buy something, the price isn't the price we talk to cheap or we talk to, it's a company price. Right? Which means you have to have consistency. A lot of what we spend our time doing about doing is trying to prevent price wars, right? My number one favorite thing talking to salespeople say, why are we pricing this way? It's because our competitors are irrational. We're doing dumb things in the market, right? But I'm like, always ask, are we sure we're not doing the same dumb things? Because it's very easy when you have this view of the world to make a decision without a lot of information. So I think this is one place where that information is useful. And these rule-based engines can be very helpful because it can help you go through all those transactions, set up a lot of logic, and then you can work on the exceptions. And you can work on the big deals, you can work on those things. Because it's hard to manage all that data. You can't do it by eye with all those Excel spreadsheets.
Especially in the packaging space, the impact of the cost side of the equation has a huge impact on the unit price. And the optimization of the job schedule, the setup cost, and the pulp that goes into in the customization, that is a classic use case for machine learning, being able to optimize that thing. Okay? Thank you, Jeet. Let's talk about the next section, benefit areas. So I know this was not high in the list of people that voted for focus area, but anytime you talk about business case, you have to think about where will benefits come from. So we have seen business case where there is a category of 10 areas and there is a common margin percentage applied across each of the 10 that leads to a dollar value. That is a business case, but it doesn't apply or provide the kind of accountability needed to make a transformation successful. Out here, you see 5 common or more common levers that we have seen in good business case work from our clients. The first one on the top is deal cycle time. Well defined, it is the time from the moment you got the initial lead till the point where the contract was signed by the customer and the time that went into it. Usually with our clients, the deal cycle time goes from hours to days. We are able to reduce the deal cycle time as part of a business case by up to 50%. So that's one benefit. The second one is order accuracy. So think of the order coming in, is the product the right one, the pricing the right one, are terms and conditions applied well, are the billing routines applied well, and all the rework that gets happened if the order accuracy isn't high. That is one area of benefit, and the accuracy rate goes as high as 90% because of a modern commerce transformation. The third area is about the whole size of the ticket. On average, we have seen that the size of the ticket can go up as high as 5% because of that guided cross-sell and upsell analytics that is part of a modern commerce engagement. Price realization and discounting. This should not be new to us. As part of the pricing process, a lot of time discounts are given because of the end of the quarter, special consideration, like the customer have to make a quota. Being able to create the discipline around deal management is one area of focus as well. And then the last one is one of the biggest ones, which is the cost of the entire sales machinery. If you think of your deal development costs, starting from the point where you have salespeople, sales operations, you have the customer support people, pricing, finance, and so on, the cost could be reduced by up to 20% in that whole machinery as part of a modern commerce engagement. Okay? Just to make it a little real, I have a business case with specific values for a company that we helped some time back. But before we do that, this is the fourth and the second from the last poll, important for our conversation, which is, in your experience, based on what you have heard, talked about, experienced, which area do you think will have the largest financial benefits of the 4 that you see listed here? Deal cycle time, simplification of the product strategy, pricing, which is value pricing, discounting, price realization, or the sales operations, better deals, lower cost, cross-sell, upsell. Okay. Consistent with what we had some time back, because we have more prizes in the room, value pricing came up as the top candidate here. I do have a real case study immediately following, which shows you the exact amount of benefits that we got for one of our clients. But before we do that, I have Todd here. Todd is one of my colleagues, and he was going to talk about his experience in the space and provide us some perspectives.
Prior to joining Deloitte, I spent, about 10 years in the industrial distribution space. Oh, would you like to use this? So I did spend about 10 years in the industrial distribution space, actually led an implementation of pros, so was actually in your shoes as the kind of client sponsor for pros implementation. And it's funny, I look at the results here, and the pricing value obviously has 9 votes. We're at a pricing conference. That shouldn't be surprising, I suppose, right? It's almost like leading the horse to water. The funny thing, though, I think is, I wouldn't be surprised if you had a pricing implementation, you'd actually see value across all these categories. It's almost a trick question in a sense, because we spend a lot of time at Deloitte working with clients, telling them that we're in the pricing strategy practice, and they immediately think you're going to help us set prices. But there's so much more to it. It's really pricing and profitability. And so quite often you'll see us, in essence, working across all 4 of these categories, from sales operations, even product simplification, helping them define their offerings in the market. But interestingly, I think the pricing value piece is, what most people would think of. But even that is, there's so many pieces to it. I mean, if you think about like the deal desk or price optimization, a lot of it depends on your business, I think. In the case of wholesale distribution, where you have 500,000 products and 1 million customers or more, it's impossible for a salesperson to know what's the right price for any customer on any product, except for maybe their top 2. And so they need to rely on artificial intelligence or some sort of optimization algorithms to help guide them on what's the appropriate pricing. I think, though, if you're not in distribution, or if you don't have that extreme set of products that you're selling, that you see more value actually on the deal desk side when it comes to negotiating large complex products. So it's almost a sliding scale from the complexity of the products that you tend to offer and what you see from the price optimization side to the deal desk and more of the management capabilities, providing information to the right hands so that they can more or less make the informed decisions. So I don't know if that aligns with any of your experiences, but that's kind of what we see. A classic consulting answer in essence is, it depends.
Depends. Thanks, Todd. If you go ahead, this is the actual case study or the business case. This is one of our clients, $1.5 billion in revenue, mostly in the US, B2B. They make what we call information products. So it's not a physical product. It is a collection of data that gets packaged into reports and software and used by banks and dealers and distributors and so on. This is the business case that we did for them. The deal cycle time, you had to take the outliers out. It was about 8 hours on average. We had to bring it to 5 hours, the biggest benefit for them because of manual processes and so on. The number of bundles they had were over 1,000. So think of unique configurations and unique bundle. We brought it to 150 pre-configured bundles, and that is all the sales force was allowed to sell. Analytics on the cross-sell upsell increased the ticket size by about 4.2%. As you can imagine, discounting and pricing guidance, $40 million of benefits in that business. That was the largest benefit area. And then the long tail was the whole manual processes and the inter-department conflicts that were created because of just a bloated cost structure. They had about $28 million of benefits that they had sidelined for that specific cost economics. Okay. What I'm going to do is, because you guys said you want to focus more on the how do you start? I'm going to skip a few slides and then let's skip this poll as well. So how does one get started? You heard this morning from leaders in the space. B2B, B2P, CPQ, CLM. There is so much happening in the space. And by the way, I'm planning to send a copy of this material. So if anyone reaches out to me by email, you will have a copy of all of the slides. So I will send it to you. My email will be at the end of the deck. There is so much complexity that we ask our clients a basic question. Where are you in your journey? Like you said, you're at a point where you're exploring the option of a solution. Some people are at a point where they know they want a solution. If you look at the 3 options on the left, broadly speaking, these are 3 buckets that we find our clients in. They're in one of these buckets or maybe around these buckets. First one is of financial distress. There is significant financial pressure. I need to show money. That is my number 1 goal. Everything else is important, but show me the money. Second one is, I think I have heard enough. I want a technology solution, and that will help me with everything I'm facing. That's the second goal. The third one is, my capabilities are so bad today that I can't even think about what I need. I need to get better at what I do. Broadly speaking, these 3 buckets. And these are 3 buckets. For each bucket, there is a distinct step. If you're in the bucket number 1, where it's financial pressure, We do something called a broad assessment of org, technology, but at the same time focus on opportunities. So in an 8 to 12 week span, you have opportunities that can fund your entire transformation and provide money at the bottom line without any major capex, major investment. That helps the company think through, let's get the benefits first, and then you can fund the business case at the end. The second one is on commercial technologies. If you are at a point where you want a solution, I would encourage you to start thinking about where is value going to come from? Where will your customers get value? Where will you get value from the solution? And then implement or invest accordingly. And then if you have a capability play, there is a broad assessment of people, process, technology that could be done before you engage into specific projects. If you look at the right, and I'll send you, and it's fine print, there is something called a commercial digital footprint assessment. This is a very common requirement that our clients come to us with. In simple words, modern commerce, CPQ, CLM, CRM, there are so many technology buzzwords that are being thrown at me right now, and I already have some of these capabilities, may not be these solutions in my infrastructure. Can you help me figure out, how do I put these together? Do I really need something net new? Or do I have capabilities that I could actually rewire and get these capabilities going? That is what we call as a commercial digital footprint assessment. That is something many of our clients ask us as a first step. Again, how do you get started? This is a $1 billion client. We had done the business case work with them. We had done some of the capability assessment work with them, and they chose to do the combination of CPQ, CLM, and billing, not CRM. This was a typical project setup for them. It was about 15 to 18 months. The first 3 months was design, followed by a 3-month pilot. And then there were 3 waves of rollout. Product waves as well as geography waves. If you look at the bottom, it's important we structure it this way, because as you do these engagements, there are financial benefits that actually come even before you go live or get even the first wave out. These are financial benefits that help build confidence in the executive base. These are gains that actually provide some financial benefits to the entire budget or spend, if you may.
Manish, can I just?
Yeah.
2 observations. One is, I think that's important, right? You've got to have a process that delivers value at each step. Make sure that you have a process that does it. That's why we looked at that box of all the things that are benefits. Pulling the pricing lever is usually the first one, because I can get some short-term quarter 1, quarter 2 responses. Deal desk, all those things take a little longer to infuse. The second is, when you think about this and more modern commerce in general, how does it all link? I'm trying to encourage people to say, hey, listen, we don't know exactly where we're going to end up with this modern commerce thing. We don't know exactly how much we want to integrate, how digital we need to get, how much we got yet. But start the random walk, right? Say, I know I'm going to move up this way, and I know I want to get more e-commerce, I want to get more integrated with my chain, my value chain. The tolerance for customers who are willing to experiment and work with you and try those things, and try things that are new, is much broader than it ever was before, right? So you have room to go try things and experiment and test. This idea of piloting and trying and reaffirming is good. If you try to get a perfect roadmap, it's not like the old SAP did. The perfect roadmap, you can't start it and then 5 years later, great, you're done. You've got to just start going. The target's moving in a lot of these cases. And so I think people get very stuck in analysis paralysis with business cases.
Yeah, Jeet, this is a good segue into what lessons have we learned. So we'll wrap the session on the lessons learned from our projects. There are 2 key buckets of lessons. There is the bucket of the design and strategy piece. There has to be a focus on simplification and business value. Often when you talk about modern commerce and you think of all the moving pieces, it gets so overwhelming that you lose track of, why did I start this? And there has to be that consistent focus on business value. Where is money going to come for me, and where will my customers get delighted? Counter to popular belief, we have found sales and sales operations people very receptive to change. They have an ask. They say, make it easy for me to sell it to my customers. The more you can do that, I'll line up with anything you are saying. Just make it easy. I want to do this too. Product strategy, we keep that in our back pocket. Sometimes it's also overlooked. But anytime you do modern commerce transformation, pay enough attention to the product strategy. There will be opportunities for you to simplify the product catalog, take away unwanted configurations, bundles, create some solutions that your customers are delighted to buy. There is the realignment of KPIs between sales, sales operations, product, customer support, finance. There is the push and pull. At the same time, there is a dovetailing of KPIs. That is something that we have found to be very successful as you go across organization. And finally, it has to be grounded in customer value. Define for yourself what does customer value mean, and then work on that. On the implementation side, don't underestimate the amount of data. I think that's commonplace. Whatever you have planned for data, double it. As soon as you get going, you will find data loopholes, data issues, data challenges. Hire a solid data jockey. That's one of the best investments you can do for the project. Change management is not just training and user guides. There is more to change management than just these things. This was the point Jeet made. Start small, act fast, fail faster. It is guaranteed that the first few pilots or the first few sprints that you do will not succeed in the marketplace. But the sooner you get in the habit, you actually cultivate this culture of change and adoption. Finally, get leadership buy-in, which I think is really important, and have some fun in the process. So we have about 4 minutes before the session ends. I wanted to keep that 4 minutes for Q&A. Like I said, this is my email ID. I will plan on sending a copy of the material to you if you email me, and you will get a copy of the presentation for sure. I have been doing this work since many, many years back when, for B2B buyers, just sending an email to any customers in the database with the generic campaign was considered good. We are in an era right now where delightful customer experience, personalized offers, right price, right time, is kind of table stakes when it comes to modern commerce. It is a complex world, it is overwhelming, but if you need help thinking through it, breaking it into bite-sized chunks, let us know. Any questions?
I have a question about your comment about departmental realignment.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about sales compensation structure?
Sales compensation structure could be one of those, but that often is a big hurdle to climb. There are even smaller hurdles in terms of departmental KPIs. So for example, if you think of two groups, sales operations and customer support, who is in charge of the renewal of the contract? Who gets incentivized with the renewal? Is it customer support who actually keeps in touch with the customer through the use of the product? Or is it sales operations that actually provides all the data to the salespeople to help with the renewal? Companies struggle with defining the KPI and ensuring who gets the right incentives and how they collaborate on those KPIs.
Aligning sales comp is very important to do, but you've got to get it right. I sometimes call sales comp the third rail, right? You only step on it with caution when you're ready to go there, because salespeople are very good at doing what you sent them to do, so you better get it right.
Yep.
Yeah, just want to come back on this one point on showing price, or the visibility of pricing. So I remember a couple of years ago there was a statement that we should show the price, because we are confident that our price is good and our price is, for example, value-based, and we know that this is the value of our product. And you mentioned now that this is changing, so I'm quite surprised about that statement. So can you just elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah. So the notion about published pricing versus dynamic pricing. There are market situations where published pricing is so static and so rigid that our competitors have built their ecosystem around that published pricing to game the system and win business from us. In those situations, show the price doesn't work to the advantage of the manufacturer. There are situations which are custom pricing where showing the price, customizing the price is needed and essential. What we are seeing is manufacturers are moving away from what I call publish or static pricing and being able to accommodate using dynamic pricing, which is more context aware. It is to the transaction based on the micro segmentation of the product and the customer. That is the direction where most of the manufacturers are moving now.
But this is basically not in line with the whole, let's say, e-commerce approach. That you say, okay, the buyers, they want to see the price.
Mhm.
When they go online, they want to see the price. So that's not in line with that, right?
Yeah, I think the counterpoint is pricing transparency is happening. It happens already. And if you don't publish your price, Google it, and someone has information about your price out there. So do you want to control the message or not? Because somebody's putting it out there. So I guess the question is, within your portfolio, which of those things that you need to be absolutely transparent with and you want to make a quick decision on, and which are the things that are negotiable and you have very competitive responses to, so you want to think about how you share that, right? I mean, this is a very common thing. How many people had a sales call where someone hands you, hey, here's what your competitor's giving you, right? Can you match that, right? So it's out there already. The question is, can you have confidence in what you're offering as a price and make sure someone's not using it against you, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. Uh, Okay, so I think the question is there a sweet spot at which frequency you should refresh dynamic pricing? Yeah, every subsector has its own sweet spot. If you think of e-com, right? Amazon changes price on some categories 12 times a day. That is published. Some categories it change prices 12 times a day. If you think of automotive parts, having a refresh every month is good enough when it comes to published pricing. I want to believe there are ranges that actually occur in between where a refresh cycle is good enough. If you're competing with .coms or online channels only, then it has to be several times a day. That is kind of commonplace at this point. People want that, people expect that. In some ways, you're also creating price confusion in the marketplace. There is a reference price in the mind of the buyer. The more you confuse the notion of the reference price, the more they'll think of things beyond price to compare you on. That is one more way to look at that. Yes?
Do you have experience working with companies that are pricing things like field service, so certain labor? Many times, at least in our industry, we publish like a field service rate sheet.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a fixed price for the whole year. And so a lot of our customers are used to having that fixed price, right? And it's how do you get from that to maybe a dynamic pricing model where you're now looking at, well, outage season, it's busy season, so we have a premium during this time. Have you worked with companies to help kind of create that transition?
Yep.
If there's anything that you
Yeah, so there's been an evolution when it comes to field service. There are some state laws where you have to publish the door rate, and the rate per hour has to be the same. Sometimes manufacturers have worked around that by saying, I will have a bundle rate for a specific type of service, which includes my labor, windshield time, as well as parts. Everything else is a custom quote, and I'll give you a custom quote past that point. Some of your competitors that we have talked to, they're exploring options where they create a menu of pricing based on the asset that they're going to fix. Geography, type of repair, my unit versus competitor's unit, do I have the bill of materials or do I use someone else's bill of material? These kind of rates are coming into dynamic pricing. They have their own routine. But there's more and more of them are moving away from the whole package price. It will be $499 for an overhaul. That is something that only lower specter of the labor is standing there.
One of the worst traps you can fall into is pricing because that's the way we've always priced, right? And as pricers, you have to keep challenging yourself, right? Some people used to say that cost plus pricing is the most common pricing.